1954. I was a part-time low brass teacher. Up to that time, Bill Brophy taught all the brass. He came in 1948, and he was teaching all the brass. And in 1954, I was working on my master's at Cincinnati Conservatory, and I went in for my, third lesson, trombone lesson with Ernie Glover. And I went in and he said, "How would you like to teach trombone at Ohio University?" Well, I was a veteran, and I was living on, I had the GI Bill, which was $126 a month or something like that. That was it. And I went to Cincinnati from Nebraska, where my tuition was $30-some a semester. So when he said, "How would you like to teach at Ohio University?" I just said, "Yeah. Where is Ohio University?" I had no idea where it was, what it was, or anything like that. And he said, "I thought you would like to do this," and he reached in his pocket and pulled out a train ticket. So I drove over here every Friday. I got up early in the morning, 4 o'clock, and drove to Ohio University, started teaching at 9 in the morning, and taught all day, and then jumped in the car and drove back to Cincinnati and had a rehearsal with the Little Cincinnati Symphony that evening. So it was a pretty hectic time. There were high quality kids here. The school was really starting to grow. Not only the School of Music, but the university. And it just almost exploded in the growth. And then we got into the Alden years, and we had all of those dormitories were built. In the spring of 1968, I was diagnosed with leukemia, which at that time is a death sentence. They had no cure for it. It was just a matter of time. And I was on Ernie's committee. We were going to hire a trumpet teacher, and Ernie was the first trumpet teacher. Up to that time, Bill Brophy taught trumpet and horn. So Bill brought Ernie out to my house. I was out there, and they had given me some, I don't know what the drug was, some really incredible, powerful drug, and I'd had a reaction to it. So Ernie came in the door, my face was all swollen and all red, and it scared him to death to think that I was going to be one of his cohorts. Well, the good thing was that a little bit later they decided it wasn't leukemia. Believe it or not, I was the drum teacher at Ohio University School of Music in 1956, which was right after I came here. And my only qualifications for this job was I'd had a drum class for my undergrad, and I owned a pair of Ludwig 2B drumsticks. I was assistant band director. I worked with the marching band. I then had the activities band. There were two bands at that time, after the marching band, and everybody that played in the concert band had to play in marching band. Bill wrote the music. I wrote the movements. There were always 96 people in the marching band. 34 women, 62 guys. The women wore the same uniform, except they wore a skirt. And then Gene Threlkill, who's the father of the Marching 110, changed all that. And the trombone teaching load got very, very heavy. I was recruiting really good. So at that time, which would have been 64. And then after that, I taught just the low brass and so-called, they called it the guinea pig class. Then Reg Fink came in 1970, so he started taking some of the trombone load, and I think he carried usually around 7 low brass guys. In 1983 or 4, whenever it was, I was going to retire. I had 30 years in, and I thought what Ohio University needs is a tuba teacher. So if I retire and go part-time, I'll become the tuba teacher. I bought a tuba and learned how to play the tuba and became the tuba teacher. In the brass world, you know, the smart kids play horn, the not so smart kids play trumpet, and if you can't play trumpet, you play trombone, and if you can't play trombone, you play tuba. Now to continue it on, if you can't play tuba, you become a drummer. Well, the physical change, of course, is we have this building, you know, and I still look at this building as the new School of Music, and it's, what, 40 years old, 46 years old. Yeah, we moved in here in 1970. But of course, the campus has expanded so much, the dormitory expansion, all of that has been built since I came. The East Green, the West Green, the South Green. Every time I walk past Mimod, that sidewalk used to be up on the top of the wall, all the way down to Gordy. That was the School of Music. But the trombone choir was interesting the way it started. We didn't have the numbers for a choir. Well, nobody had a trombone choir. You know, that was something the Moravians did, have trombone choirs. And I had 2 trombone quartets, and I played in one of them because there weren't any bass trombone players around. I was a bass trombone player, and you know, that was an instrument that you didn't play. I was the very first bass trombone player to graduate from Cincinnati Conservatory, as that was my instrument, bass trombone. So I put them all together and started the trombone choir. We were very, very active, usually around 24 to 30, I think 33 was the largest group. But we went on tour every year. We had great picnics. The word T-bone, T-B-O-N-E, I bought T-bone steaks for everybody. Well, at that time, you could do that. And then I started the tuba ensemble, probably 84, I suppose, after I'd retired and became the tuba teacher. And that started out as a quartet also. One of my mottos was, there aren't any great teachers, there are only great students. Because if you don't want to learn, I don't care who you're studying with, you're not going to learn. And I don't care who you're studying with, if you want to learn, you'll learn. If you came to me and showed me you were going to work and had all the smarts, I'd make a trombone player out of you. That was kind of my attitude. I think of one little girl. I still have lunch with her once a month. Great gal. She came in and she had this old beat up trombone. And she was smart, had good grades, terrible embouchure, terrible instrument, and she studied with me. And it was awful. And I remember spring of that first year, she announced to me that, Mr. Smith, I'm going to become a music major next year. Well, she came back in the fall, bought a new trombone, and became a very good trombone player. She's first chair trombone player. Got her master's, went out, taught. Things like that just make teaching so worthwhile. So worthwhile to see kids come in. You could see sparks in them someplace. Yeah. It's, if you want to do something bad enough, you can do it. Probably 1,000 policemen, highway patrolmen, and then by 8 o'clock in the morning it was all National Guard. Then the next day, you know, we all came in, and university's closed, all the doors were locked. I stood on the door out here and would open the door for a student that I recognized. And they could come in and get their books and their instruments, and campus closed. I went home, and I just got home. The phone rang. I answered the phone. Mr. Smith, this is Rand. Rand was one of my star trombone players. Great kid. He says, I'm in jail. Could you come down and bail me out? So I went down, and it cost me $18 to get Rand out of jail. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. You know, it's hard to believe, but that type of thinking turned into, well, first it turned into St. Patty's weekend. It was the students' responsibility to take over Court Street. And there would be these big riots and tear gas, things like that. And then that changed into Halloween. And we still have Halloween, even though Halloween is somewhat controlled now. That's really where it came from. And the protesting business actually evolved out of panty raids. So you guys aren't nearly as crazy as you thought. You know? I remember President Alden was over to Gordie Hall. We were having a meeting with him, and we were talking about it. And I asked him, are the windows going to be openable? And he said, no, they're sealed. I said, well, what happens if the air conditioning goes off? Oh, you know, in this modern age, air conditioning is very reliable. It never goes off. So we didn't win that one, and you know, all of the windows are sealed. None of them open. Well, we moved in January. Nice, wonderful facility, all heated well. Springtime comes, the air conditioning comes on. Oh man, this is just great, wonderful. Sometime in the middle of May, the air conditioning system just completely destroyed itself. The Baker Center, the old Baker Center, had just opened in 1953. It had a faculty lounge in it. You theoretically had to belong to the faculty club. And this was brand new, because in 53 it was built, and I came in 54. Bill Brophy would not join the club. It was just against his principles. So there was a big list posted right at the door of, you know, that he was not allowed in there. We had tuba brats. That was tuba picnic. And we had tuba coupe. I was also a pilot, and I had an air coupe. So we would go out to the airport, and the kids would do the cooking, and I would give rides. When we moved in here in 1970, that counter in the office was not there. But the two desks were just like they are now. And Helen was sitting at the front desk, where Barb sits now. And it was real easy to walk in, and you could be close. Talk to them without shouting and do things like that. You know. Well, I came in this one day, and here's this counter fencing you off from the office. You're not allowed in the office anymore. And I said something to Helen about the counter, and she said, well, why don't you just jump over it? So I jumped up on the counter, and I was standing up there making my request, and I looked down. I could see Helen was very embarrassed by something, and I looked down, and there's Henry Lynn, Dean of the Fine Arts, College of Fine Arts, standing there. We partied together a lot more. That's another great thing that's changed, I think. Now, I don't know for sure. Partying after every concert, there was a party at somebody's house. You play a recital, somebody threw a big party for you in their house. You didn't go downtown to a bar or anything like that. And, you know, there were a lot of recitals being played. Ensembles was the same thing. You played the concert, and there's a party at somebody's house, at the band director's house or wherever. And as I've gotten older now, you know, and maybe I'm a little tired, I don't know how we got up the next morning. Because we would do this, you know, maybe 2 concerts a week. You're out partying till 1 o'clock, and then you get up the next morning, you know, you have 8 o'clock class. We were tough then.